For those of you that weren't here earlier, my name is TJ. I'm one of the student organizers for the conference. And it is my pleasure to introduce Nicoletta Rule, who will be talking about how the Los Angeles Chargers tackle digital challenges and opportunities. So without further ado, welcome Nicoletta.
I don't need that. Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for coming to this session. I know there's a lot of great sessions. So I'll try to be as entertaining as possible and fit everything into 25 minutes. So just a brief overview of what I'm going to talk about today, which is, well, obviously, as I'm sure every sports fan or non-fan knows, we've gone through just a small little transition, quite possibly the biggest one in the history of our franchise over the last couple months. So it's been a little chaotic. But I think we're at a point now that we are really, really, really excited, and we're looking at this as a great opportunity, especially from the digital, social, branding, and TV side of it. So I'm going to take you a little bit. First, I'm going to rewind and sort of give you some background on what my department and group has done over the past few years, and then move forward and kind of tell you a little bit of what we have planned so far for the future. So first, I think it's moving from the 26th biggest media market in the country to the second biggest media market. So it's a little daunting, but as I said, it's exciting. And I think that we feel at the Chargers that we have on and off the field a really, really good foundation to move into a market like that. And that starts with passionate leadership. And that's not only on the field, but it's also off the field, because we have some great people that are moving us into this market. And aside from passionate leadership, the next part of that is that we have some really, really great, talented, and hungry youth, both on the field and off the field. And off the field, we're looking at this as an opportunity to really tap into more of that, because we're going to need more resources, and we're going to need more hungry people that want to dive head first into this marketplace with us. So with that said, before I go forward, I kind of want to take you back and tell you a little bit about what our department has accomplished over the past 2 to 3 years. And with that, obviously, we haven't been the most inspiring and successful on the field in the past 3 years. So my group, as the digital and social media department, has really had to figure out how to engage that fan and keep them engaged. And with that, I want to kind of start first at sort of what we've done, what we've figured out in this past year. And what that is how to really engage that fan. And yes, you'll see, and I put this on purpose, that our just sheer visit number has declined throughout each year, but that's common when you're not playing well on the field. Some people, don't tune in, or some people tune out. But what we established and figured out last year successfully is how to keep those fans that are staying with us, how to keep them constantly engaged. And as you'll see on the right-hand column, the visits per visitor, our time on site, articles per visit. This is on Chargers.com, and this is on Chargers mobile site. We are ranked top 5 across all 32 teams in the league. And that was last year with a 5-11 record on the field. So that's something that we're really proud of and that we want to continue to build upon. Again, year over year, you'll see on the top column, that's 2015. Not so great. We had a 4-12 record on the field, and we hadn't quite figured out yet what sort of that fan wanted and how to keep them engaged. And then you'll see at the bottom, 2016, that jumped to basically the top 5 in the league in engagement. On top of that, you'll see our app. Another really, really interesting progression and exciting thing that we've done there is, yes, maybe our unique visitors have not grown a ton over the past couple of years, but what we've done is established, again, a top 5 ranking across all clubs and engagement, most particularly in video views. Our videos per visit have been #1 across the league for the past 6 months. So basically through the whole 2016 season, people are more engaged with the videos on our mobile app than any other club in the league. And you'll see photos were another really high ranking that we had as well. So those are just some things I think that kind of show that we have been able to tap into those dedicated fans and continue giving them what they want and really connecting with them. Then you'll see over social. So again, social audience, probably about middle of the pack across all 32 clubs in the league, but yet our engagement and also our referrals. Our referrals from our social media channels back to our site to view our content on Twitter, ranked about #2 across the league, Facebook, #9, and Instagram. We grew our following by 17%. And so I think, you'll see, everybody knows how important social media is to a sports entity, but I think where we have really felt it's the most valuable is getting people to go back to our site, go back to our app, and view our content. And people want that content. We're understanding what they want and how to give it to them. And so I think also on our social channels, another thing to note is that we thought that when we announced that we were moving to LA, we would see a huge drop-off in followers. We thought, okay, that's to be expected. We'll, eventually be able to work that back up. And actually, Facebook was the biggest drop-off. I think about, of our 1.8 million followers, I think it dropped off to about 1.7. But actually, our Twitter following grew by 125,000 followers. And so we went from roughly 350,000 followers to around 500,000 followers. And then Instagram dropped off just a slight bit. But other than that, it really didn't drop off too much. And right now, what we're trying to do is figure out more so where that audience is coming from, and also how to tap in, which I'll get into a little bit later, that LA-based audience. So before I do that, one more piece of this puzzle I think that we've been able to really successfully figure out over this past season is how to tap into generating revenue off of our digital content that we're creating. And I think that what we've done is really hone in on all of that data behind the content that we're creating. So for instance, I'm going to use our editorial that we're doing. So throughout a season, we have a bunch of editorial content series that we create on a weekly basis. So, a lot of it's trial and error. And I think over this past year, we've really understood, okay, what types of editorial content are people constantly tuning into, and what are, like this shows, what are the buzzwords around that? So obviously you see what stands out the most, roster moves. Okay, so that's huge, right? Anytime we make a roster move, it could just be somebody to our practice squad. People want to see what that is. So what we did, and this seems really simple, is take those roster moves, put it into almost a blog style, and called it Bolts Transactions, and then got the series sponsored, attached a sponsor's name, logos, and rights to that piece of content, which got more viewership over this past season than any other piece of editorial content that we've produced. So it's things like this that we're looking at. It's graphs like this that we look at every single day to see what's buzzing. What are people tuning into? What do they like? What do they want more of? And what do they not like? What's not working? With everything that works, there's just as much that doesn't work. So we brush that aside, and then we bring in the stuff that is really working. So over this past season, these are some of our editorial features that we did. You'll see in orange is just over this past year what we were able to get sponsored. And then in blue is what we haven't been able to get sponsored, but is almost like those things that we put up on the docket. It's like, in the batter's box. So we work really closely with our sponsorship team. These are the next things on the docket. So these are the next things where if my sponsorship team comes to me and says, okay, X client wants to tap into our digital space and wants to have a presence there. What do you suggest? Well, I would say, okay, what do you want to look at? Editorial? Do you want to look at video content? Do you want to look at photo content? Do you want to look at site sponsorship, social, what? And so I put stuff like this in front of them and say, okay, well, this is what's the most successful right now that doesn't have a sponsor. And so that's sort of the way that we work together to generate revenue off of all of our content that we're digitally and socially producing. So that, in short, in 5 minutes, was sort of the backstory to what my department as a whole kind of does throughout a year. And so what we plan on continuing going forward, but obviously at a much larger scale. So the big question is, what's next, right? As I said, second media market in the country. That's going to be a tall task, but I think that, as you saw, the foundation is set. Now it's just amplifying that. So what we decided was we worked with an agency, we worked internally, and we thought, you know, we're moving into this market and it's crowded. There's a lot of teams there. There's a lot of competition there. We're not going to steal Dodgers fans. We're not going to steal Clippers and Kings fans. But how can we also get them to welcome us and to like us? How can we tap into that and connect with those fans? Not shoving ourselves into that market, but it's more, what do they want from us? What do they want to see from us? And as what we've kind of been calling it, a listening tour. Sort of go into that market, step in with ease, be humble, be confident, and how do we earn their respect? And so I think, as I just said, the challenges of that, crowded marketplace, who's our audience? How do we earn that? How do we earn that respect? How do we earn those fans? We have to, I mean, these are fans that, you know, at first didn't seem like they really necessarily wanted us there, or if they didn't want us there, they just didn't really care. So what can we show them that other teams maybe haven't been showing them, and what can we do to attract them to our in-game experience? And that's another part of this too that we think is really going to be unique and really special, and that's that we've decided to play in the StubHub Center. And the StubHub Center only seats 30,000 people. That is the smallest venue that's ever going to host an NFL team. And so we looked at that and we thought, is that what we really want? Do we really want to sort of condense our audience down like that? Do we really want to make it that small? And you know what? I think at the end of the day, we did want that. We want that. We feel like in this first couple years in LA, we really want that intimate and unique experience for fans. We want them to feel like they are a part of the game, a part of our team. And we felt like this was a great venue to do that in. So now it's what's going to pull them in and attract them to come and watch that game, and that's what we're currently in the process of doing. And we've had a lot of interest and a lot of people getting back to us saying, I love that you're going to be playing in this venue, and I can't wait to see a football game there that up close and personal. So I think we feel like we're on the right track in terms of engaging fans. I think the other things that we've done too, it's only been 2 months since we announced we're moving. It feels like it's been 2 years, but the other stuff that we've done too, we've already been in the community in LA, in Orange County. We've been doing community events with local high schools, football teams, and then on top of the local, we've done national stuff. We've gotten Phillip Rivers and Joey Bosa on the Jimmy Kimmel Show. We've gotten them doing radio hits. We've gotten them on the NFL Network multiple times, on ESPN, doing all of this stuff to just get people excited about us being, you know, in LA, in the second biggest market, and wanting them to come watch our superstars play. So those, I think, were the main challenges. What I see as the main opportunities going in, and this speaks for sort of the organization as a whole, but more specifically for digital, social, TV, broadcast, is establishing the same kind of engagement that we've already had over this past season with a much bigger audience. So we had the engagement, we knew how to do it right. How do we do that on a bigger scale? How do we tap into this huge market and engage them like we did in our old market. Taking our content to the big screen. Now, what I mean by that, we've had 2 TV shows that my department in-house have produced in San Diego over the past 2 years. One's a magazine-style show, and the other is kind of a old ex-player hosted edgy analysis type show. And I think that we were successful there with those shows, and now what we see is we really want to kind of wipe the slate clean and say, okay, this is a completely different TV audience. Who, in regards to networks and fans, who are they and what do they want? What do they want on their big screen? What do they want to see? And so we're in the middle of figuring that out right now, but I mean, I hope that 2 TV shows turns into 4 TV shows. And so that's kind of another big thing, a big opportunity that I see. The other is growing, as I mentioned, our LA social audience. And I think that that's going to take a lot of social listening and understanding what fans are the ones coming from LA and what are they tuning into and what are they tuning out of. And that's going to take a little bit of time, but we're sort of on our way. And then I think overall, the big thing is creating that 360 unified media team. And what I mean by that is taking all of those components that I just talked about, web, mobile, social, and TV, and putting those all together. And I think in this past year or 2, we've done a pretty good job of that, but I think in a smaller market like San Diego, you could kind of get away with piecemealing it. And in this market, I think what we need to truly establish is putting all of those things together and creating symmetry. And that means with our brand, that means with our content, that means with our social content, all of the above. And so I think that that's going to take a lot of work, a lot more resources, but I feel confident that we, again, already have that base established and we're just going to work from there. So how are we going to know that this is working? Well, again, as everybody in this room knows, it's called one thing, and it's data. And I think that what we have done well over the past couple years is really digging deep into that data. And I think that we are going to continue doing all of that, whether it's, listening through, social media tools, whether it's using Adobe Omniture, Tableau, all of the tools that we use, and using those 10 times as much as we were to understand, again, what people want. And I know I've said that 100 times, but that's really what it's all about, because that's how, if you establish what your fan wants and you connect with them, everything else is going to fall into place for you. And so if it's working, this is hopefully what you'll see us doing on the sidelines of one of our games next year. And ultimately, I think that at the end of the day, what we want to do, I keep asking myself this, and that's, okay, at the end of the year, what are you going to have to look back at and say, to be able to say, this was successful? And I think it's, it's a lot of things. That's a big loaded question, but I think that it's being able to establish those opportunities that I listed out of creating that unified media team and building upon that and knowing that it's not all going to come at once, that this is an investment and this is going to take a while, but I think that if we can at least conquer some of that, then I think that I could look back and say this year 1 in this huge market is successful. So with that, these were the top 10 photos that we chose for our 2016 season. And I hope that we can have an even more exciting top 10 photos for next year in our first year in LA. So that is it. And questions? Yeah.
In terms of branding, when the move to LA was announced, there was a little bit of confusion with the Twitter avatar being changed, and was that the new logo, was it not? What's your perspective on how all that went about?
Yes, well, I was very deep into that. So I think what we did wrong, and I will say did wrong, was everything was moving so quickly, and we felt like we had this really, really great branding campaign. And you kind of saw a little bit of that branding campaign throughout these slides. We thought that the best thing to do was going to be have this new, shiny marketing logo. Not a new logo for the uniforms, but like a marketing thing that we could get people to really attach themselves to. But that was only, that logo that you saw, that confusion, that thing that sort of went away, was only like 5% of our entire campaign. And we got so attached to just that logo that what we did wrong, and I still stand by that I like the logo, but anyway, you guys can disagree with me. What we did wrong was we led with that. And we led with that, and that is what, rightfully so, everybody glommed onto. And that was the mistake that we made. And so they missed out on all the other campaign elements that we had because everybody was stuck on this logo. And so what we did was decided that, and also we didn't clarify that this was just a marketing logo, that it was not a uniform change. It was not changing our official logos and marks. And so really more than anything, it just was an element of confusion. And so we had to just sort of wheel it back a little bit. And so we kind of took that away and put it to the side so people could focus on all of the other elements of the campaign and what we were starting to do in the LA community. So if that answers your question. Yes.
How do you balance giving away your content on social media to try to build those platforms versus keeping it in-house on your app that you were talking about sort of at the beginning of the presentation?
Are we talking about just like social content and specifically?
The content, how do you decide which content is going to go on social media that could in theory be on your app to get people there, but you want to bring it to where the people are, so you put it on social media instead? How do you sort of balance between those two wants?
I would say that we probably, most of the content we put out, social content is a lot different than content that you would put on your app. Social content, I would say, is more what we focus on, would be more like big milestones, breaking news, things, and also things that are going to link back to our site to actually see the content. So what we would do is almost tease it on social media. If it's a piece of content we want people going back to our app or going back to our site to see, and then link it back to that to see the rest of the content. So it's kind of like we join the two together, and social media acts as almost like that teaser or the visually exciting part of it, and then you have to go back to one of our platforms to see the rest of it. Any other questions? Yeah.
Are you still marketing in the San Diego area, or are you just focusing in LA and Orange County?
Our marketing in San Diego won't be nearly as heavy. We still are hoping to keep some of our season ticket holder base from there. That's yet to be determined how much. So I think that we've scaled off of that. It's much heavier, obviously, in Orange County, and our big focus is LA. So there'll be a little bit here and there, but right now it's still a little bit in that gray area, I think, because people aren't really certain of, do they like the Chargers or do they not like the Chargers right now. So I think that will clear up, I think, as we go along, and hopefully once football season hits, we will find ourselves in that market a little bit more. Yeah.
Can you talk about to which extent you collaborate with the league as well as the other resident from the league, the Rams, within LA, to not just establish your own brand, but also build the master brand of the NFL?
That's a good question. We have some league people in here right now that I work very, very closely with. First, on the league part of that, league side of that, I and my team work very closely with the digital team at the league, and we work really, really well together, and they're a huge, huge help in terms of pretty much everything that we do all initiatives. So I'd say from an analytics standpoint, we work incredibly closely with them. And over the past 2 years, they've really upped the ante and I think churning out analytics from the teams, for the teams, and on behalf of the teams, and helping them from a revenue standpoint, digital revenue standpoint. We collaborate with the league as well on sort of, okay, so packaging. So packaging different types of sponsorships. The league will kind of weigh in and give us that sort of like bird's eye perspective on, okay, this is what other teams are doing. This is maybe the better way to do things. Help us with price points. They really help across the board on any new initiative. The app as well, I think, whether it's wanting to talk to different vendors, tapping into new resources, connecting us with other teams. So the league is very, very, I think, vitally important to our success on the team side. And then I think in regards to the Rams, as much as we like them, they are our competition now. And friendly competition, I hope so. I haven't had much collaboration with them yet, but I do know that they have some great people over there to work with, and I do hope that we can, work together, when we can. But right now, it's kind of like, we're competing with each other. So, yeah, that's kind of where we are now. Anybody else? Yeah. Well, that's sort of TBD. Right now, in San Diego, I had only a full-time staff of 6 people and 3 to 4 seasonal interns. Going into LA, I'm hoping to increase that staff. We haven't really figured that all out yet, but I think I'm going to definitely need more resources. Especially on, I think, we're really looking, as you could see, growing the video production TV side of our business and growing that out of the digital department because we don't have a broadcast department. So any video that you see on TV, not games aside, is coming from the 2 people, 3 people that produce video inside of my department. So I'm hoping to really establish more of that. So we're working on it right now. And that's a wrap. Thank you.